Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show! With special guest, Slipwrick the Skeleton.
It's not my fault the babes like me, man.
Also, Whoa!
Perverts.
And don't forget about your legendary loser host himself, Creepy Joe!
Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show. Tonight we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974.
After a run-in with a group of cannibals, a young woman and her friends are terrorized by Leatherface and his chainsaw in this classic slasher.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. You gotta love the 70s and the 80s. I mean, that was probably the golden age of horror, I would say. I mean, to me anyway, those are the best 2 decades. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate, I'd say the 90s as well. The 90s was amazing for horror, so I think anything after that is when it started getting kind of rough, but there's great horror movies still made today. So I'm not a hater on any other genre or any other, decade. You gotta appreciate all of it, but me personally, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, probably because of my age, I really enjoy most of the movies from those, but more so 80s. But directed by Tobe Hooper, and he's done a whole mess of other things that I'm not even gonna get into. Maybe I'll show you. Also, starring Marilyn Burns as Sally, and you'll hear that name a lot.
Sally, I hear something. Stop! Stop!
And then Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface, Edwin Neal as Nubbin Sawyer, and I don't think they even really say his name in the movie, but that's the weirdo, the hitchhiker. It's a total weirdo. And I don't know if he's really like that in real life, but probably. Then you have Terry McMinn as Pam, and then you have Paul Parshin. I think that's how you pronounce that, or Partain. I think it's Parshin, like a Martian, but with a P. Franklin, and he's very annoying. Franklin, he's in the wheelchair, and then you have Jim Sido playing Dayton Sawyer, who's we'll get into all these people, but anyway, Alan Danziger, I think that's how you pronounce it, Jerry, and then you have William Vale as Kirk. There's a few other characters that don't have big parts in this movie that I'm not going to mention because it's just one of those things, man. I can't make the starring list 20 heads long. I mean, I feel like this one was large enough, and eight people starring in this one, but they're all in it. All the people that I mentioned are in the movie the majority of the time. So a group of kids, they're not really kids, but whatever, teenagers. I don't even know if they're in their 20s yet. are all going to a concert, and they're driving through the Texas countryside, and they, that's not exactly how the movie starts out. It starts out in a graveyard, and there's corpses all over the place. People are digging up corpses, and it's like a story in Texas. But the movie kicks in when the kids, it introduces the stars, and they're on their way to a concert, and they can't find any gas. They go to a gas station. There's no gas, and that's where they meet Drayton Sawyer, who is like Leatherface's dad or uncle or something. I should know that, but it's not that important, honestly. And they're family members. But anyway, so they're told that there's no gas there, and and they're asking about this farmhouse. One of them has a family member that owned a farmhouse there, or a house, and it's like abandoned now, but they ask about it to see where, if it's still up there, and they go up and check this farm out. So on their way to this farmhouse, they pick up a hitchhiker who is played by Edwin Neal, and he's a total weirdo. He's talking about the slaughterhouses and how it was better when they used a sledgehammer rather than the bolt, and you can just tell he's weird, and he's like, yeah, I like it. They die better with the sledgehammer. And he's just like, looks like he's on like acid and meth at the same time. And so he ends up like cutting Franklin open with his knife, and like burning it, taking a picture of him and burning his picture. And so they kick him out, and he's like, he cuts himself open as well, and he wipes blood all over the side of the van. So then they get to this farmhouse after all that drama happens. They're walking around this property, and they know that there's an old swimming. It's like 100 degrees out. They're complaining the entire time. Franklin over and over again complaining how hot it is, and they're all stuck in the back of this van. So they go to this old property.
If I have any more fun today, I don't think I'm going to be able to take it.
They're looking for a swimming hole, and the swimming hole's dried up, and they're looking for gas as well. So they hear a generator off in the distance, and pretty much like couple by couple. Well, at first it's a couple, and then they wander over. Kirk and I forget what the girl's name. I want to say it's Kirk and Pam wander over to the house, and there's another house off in the distance where the generator's coming from, and then that's where they meet their demise. And yeah. So then the other ones, then Jerry goes and looks for them, and then pretty much Sally and Franklin are left behind at the van, and it got dark out, and they never came back. So they go looking for him, and then that's when Leatherface comes out and murders Franklin, and then the rest of the movie is just a psychedelic torture. I don't even know what you'd call it, but Sally is just basically running for her life the rest of the movie. And surprisingly, and unfortunately, she survives. And I say unfortunately because she was so traumatized that like she'd probably be tortured the rest of her life by what happened. And I believe they show in future sequels that she is. She's like in a mental hospital. So, yeah, they torture the shit out of her for like, half, I want to say like almost half the movie. And then she escapes. And there's a whole hell of a lot that goes on in between that. It's pretty fast. It's very, very slow pace at first. A lot of people would not be able, kids today would hate this movie. They'd probably feel the same way we felt when we were people in your 30s when we were kids watching black and white. It wasn't as interesting. Now I appreciate it, obviously, and I get off on these strange subjects. But anyway, it's very slow. It's like a Kubrick in the beginning, like it takes a long time for this to lead up to what it is. And then once Leatherface is chasing Sally around, it's just nonstop, whatever you want to call it. It's like a thriller, But that's pretty much it. She survives, and yeah, I ruined the whole movie. But it's really interesting, and most people, I'd say, if they took a poll, I'd like to see the statistics. Everybody has heard of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even if you hate horror movies, like, everybody knows about it. Everybody knows who Leatherface is, the chainsaw, whatever. So I just felt like I had to bring this to everybody's attention who doesn't know what all is on Tubi to watch this, because it's free on Tubi right now, and you know, I can't not do it. You know, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's not like in like my top 10, but it's up there. You know, it's a great movie. I've watched it 100 times. I'll probably see it a few more times throughout my life. You know, I don't go out of my way to watch it, but it's you know, it happens because it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I'm gonna rate this a 4 out of 5 for sure. Solid 4 out of 5. It spawned many sequels. It caused many sequels. It caused, you know, the whole basis of Leatherface and like the whole serial killer. It was all based off of Ed Gein, how he used to dig up bodies from the cemetery and make like lampshades out of people's skin and all that stuff. In this movie, they got some of their ideas from that, and you know, then you have, you know, people have been trying to recreate this movie or like top it. And I mean, it gave a lot of inspiration to a lot of directors, like Rob Zombie. Like, we wouldn't have House of a Thousand Corpses right now without Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, Rob Zombie basically copied the whole movie. I mean, yeah, if you liked House of a Thousand Corpses, you'll like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But no, I mean, I'm not ripping, you know, Rob Zombie. You know, I think he's great, and I love all his movies as well. And most like huge horror fanatics don't like him. You know, I know a lot of, you know, people out there doing horrible reviews on his movies, and I say to each their own, but in my opinion, I enjoy them. But anyway, that has nothing to do with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So all these movies for the whole month of October are free on Tubi. That's why I'm doing this, October Fest. And we only have 2 nights left. And I randomly pick these throughout the night. So I don't know which one I'm going to be doing tomorrow yet, but we'll see. And everything that you're reviewing this entire month is guaranteed to be on there. I made sure that they're not, you know, going to be gone in 4 days or 6 days. They usually show that, and all these are on here, so you can watch this right now. But thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. A little bit drawn out on this one, on off subjects and whatnot, but thanks for sticking with me, and stay creepy.